Hi guys, Yakto here. This here is the SU122P premium tank, the Russian premium tank. I'm gonna do a short review movie about this tank. I'm gonna start off by talking a bit about the SU122P and compare it to the other tanks that are in the same rank or above it, and see how it fares in comparison to those tanks when it comes to paper stats. After that, we'll have a look at some gameplay and I'll show you how this thing performs in game and how I drive it, what kind of tactics I use and what mindset I have when I play it. This tank is, in my opinion, one of the best tank destroyers on the Russian tree. And it has one of the best cannons of all the Russian tank destroyers. You can argue that the SU-100's gun could be better because it fires faster, but yeah, for the battle rating 5.7, this 122 D25S cannon is just great. It has a reload rate at 24.4 seconds, and it does some at best 207 millimeters of penetration. If you compare that to these tanks, they have the same penetration value and the same gun, or at least this one has. And this is a tank destroyer sitting at 6.3. And besides that, it's also bigger and it's an easier target to hit for the enemy. It's also much slower, and it has a lot less sloped armor at the front, and if you see it like this from the side, it's a huge target to hit. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think that the SU122P is, I would say, the most versatile and best tank destroyer on the Russian side. Correction, now when I've bought the SU100, I could see that it's actually the SU100's gun that is the best if you're using this APCBC shell, and it actually has some 8 millimeters more of penetration than the SU122P, and on top of that, the gun reloads faster, so it's a much better gun, I would say. But yeah, you get my point. The SU-122P is it has a very potent gun, and it seems like you can buy a very, very good tank with a very good gun for money in this game. It's almost a bit like you're paying to win, because, you know, this tank is at the lower 4 rank, but it still performs as good as, I would say, the ISU-152 can, or these guys down here. Other peoples might also say that, well, the ISU-122 and the ISU-152 has 20 millimeters of thicker frontal hull plate armor. Yeah, but, you know, this tank has some 75 millimeters. The SU-100 and the SU-122P has the same armor. It has some 75 millimeters of hull armor, and it's pretty well sloped, and it's much more sloped than the ISU-152 and the ISU-122 tank destroyers' frontal hull plate. And although I'm not really a good mathematician, I'm thinking that this angle, which might be 45 degrees, 75 millimeters of frontal hull armor at 45 degrees would be roughly the same effective thickness that the ISU tanks has. So even though the paper stat says that this tank has a lot less armor than the ISU tanks, or these tanks has a lot less armor than the ISU tanks, you still get roughly the same effective armor thickness on these tanks. So Why go up the tree? Why unlock these massive monsters? They also have longer reload rates. This SU122 has a 37.1 second reload, and that's 13 seconds more than the SU122P. And this tank has the same gun as the SU122P, and it has a slower rate of reload. I don't see how that makes the ISU tank destroyers better tanks, even though they're at rank 5. Maybe that will change when I unlock them and try them out, but yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, enough rambling. Let's have a look at some gameplay and see how this thing behaves in combat. So I like to start off my games by standing overwatch from a far away position. Not too far away though, but just to provide some support to the tanks moving up. And here at Cuban, I'm at the sniper position, and I'm standing in a hull down little ditch on a hill. And I just took out one Panther, and now I'm waiting to see whether there will be another tank coming up, lagging in behind of the first one. And sure enough, there's the other one. Boom, and he's dead. So this sequence really shows you how important it is that you hit with your first shot, because you have 20 seconds or more reload, and if you hit at ranges within 500 meters, you will kill most tanks in the game that you will encounter, and that is including the Jagdpanther, the Ferdinand, and this here, the King Tiger. Just boom, dead. So it's all about one-shot kills with this tank. It's really nice, but it can be trollish as well. And of course, if you get a shot like this at the side of King Tiger, well, he's dead. There's nothing else to it. This gun is just great, and from my experience, you want to engage tanks within, I would say, medium to short range, and that is on ranges shorter than 1,000 meters, I would say. Below 500 would be the best optimal distance for engaging German tanks. But since you tend to go up against easier opposition in this tank, you tend to go up against Panther Ds and Tiger 1s. Range is not really a problem, but against King Tigers and Jagdpanthers, you will have to be patient and wait for them to get a bit closer. Or you can do like I'm about to do later on in the video. You can spend round after round after round just bouncing on the front of Jagdpanther. That's also doable. So here I was waiting in ambush for a Jagdpanther. I kinda knew he was coming, so I took a speculative shot at him. Before he sees me, I back up behind the bush and I wait for my reload. And then I just ride straight through the bush, and there he is. I think. Oh, there he is. Boom, dead. He never saw me coming, so you need to be stealthy and sneaky in this tank destroyer. That's the optimal way of playing it. But you can also be very aggressive in it, but that makes the first shot very crucial. You need to hit with the first shot. If you do that, you will kill tanks. But if you do not kill tanks with the first shot, you will most likely get killed. So here's what I was talking about earlier on. This is a scripted sequence. I've cut down the waiting time between the rounds, and I'm trying to take out the Jagdpanther at 1600 meters. And I know the distance. It's just that this cannon is totally unreliable at that range, so it kind of scatters the rounds all over, and when I hit, I don't penetrate all that often. And if I do, it seems to cause little or no damage. So I think that all in all, I spent around 11 or 12 rounds on this Jagdpanther. So yeah, avoid long range engagements unless you're firing at, I would say, bots on Kursk map or something like that. So I just fire and fire and fire, and it's a bounce, or it's you've hit but you haven't done any critical damage, or you've hit the suspension. And then finally I get a killing shot in, and that was nice. But this gun can be, I don't know, it's like the KV2 gun. Either you one-shot kill everything, or it just bounce. There's no in between, you know. Like here, I go up against a tiger and it's a side shot, and yeah, that shot could have just been eaten up by his suspension, but it could also have been a one-shot kill. So yeah. But I love this tank. It's great. You know, it's fun to play, and if you go up against medium tanks, you will kill every one of them. There's no other way about it. Panthers, Panzer IVs, they will just be obliterated by the 122 mil shell, like this Panzer 4G. Bam! And in another game I got up against this guy, Panzer IV F2. And you can actually get into games against Panzer IV F2s. Mostly they come into the game because you're going up against Tigers, and Panzer F2s, or Panzer IV F2s, are in the bottom seeding range of the Tiger, so that means you're more or less 2 battle rates over him, so it's just weird. And as a finisher of this review, I had a little experiment. I decided to have a game where I only used HE rounds to see whether you can actually play this as a SU122 self-propelled howitzer and fire high explosives. So here I am firing at the Tiger from roughly 400 meters to the side, and that's just a 2-shot kill. And later on I went up against this Tiger in the same game, that is. It's not reliable, but if you hit, you damage tanks with these HE rounds. They weigh about 42 kilograms, and that's just a lot of explosives. And they do a lot of damage if you hit. So here I'm going up against 2 Tigers, and I fired 1 shot to the side of the first Tiger, and then I backed up to reload, and then I saw this guy, and I just fired straight at him, and I wrecked his gun amongst other things in his tanks. And I'm giving him another round here, but just as I'm about to fire, he tried to return fire and he explodes. So yeah, HE rounds are actually a viable option on this gun, because they don't get affected by range, since they don't have any penetration value. So if you fire at, let's say, heavy tanks at extreme ranges, you will knock their gun out, and you will possibly track them and cause all different damage to them, modular damage. I would say it's probably a good option if you're going up against targets at extreme ranges. But at this kind of range, you know, below 500 meter, a AP shell would be more effective. It would kill a tiger in one shot if the shell penetrates and you hit the weak spot. You don't really have to aim for weak spots with this gun, since it has around 180 millimeters of penetration at 400 meters, so this poor guy. I couldn't kill him with the HE rounds. I went in circles around him, trying to get the penetration, but it turned out to be 6 shells or something before I could kill him. So here's a shot to the engine, no crit, or a lot of critical damage, but no kill. And then I reload. I think I shoot him again in the side of the turret, and he's caught fire, but he put out the fire, so I went around him and I fired the shot into the front, and that was a no yoy shot. And then I shoot him in the side again once I reload, and it's a multiple crit hit but no kill. So I reload again, and at about shot 6 I kill him. And I ended up getting 3 kills in one game, so that was quite nice. So the SU122P, to round it up, it's a great tank. It's not that great at longer ranges, so you need to choose your engagements to tanks that are around, I would say, below 1,000 meters would be great to fight against those, and to ignore every tank that is above 1,000 meters away. And you need to play this tank very cautiously. You can't just run up and think that you're a medium tank. You need to ambush tanks and try to fire from cover. So yeah, that was all for me, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys around.